Ghastly Garlic Episode 24. My last train was to hell and back. Prologue. The clock struck midnight as the last train rolled into the station. Its ancient steel frame creaked under the weight of the night, and the dim, flickering lights cast long, eerie shadows on the platform. Ming, a weary office worker, barely caught the train, stumbling through the doors just as they began to close. He collapsed onto an empty seat, breathing heavily. He had no idea that this ride would be a journey through his darkest nightmares. Station 1, the Masked Specter. The train shuddered to a halt at the first station. The doors slid open with a groan, revealing a dimly lit platform. An unnerving silence hung in the air, broken only by the distant sound of a dripping faucet. Ming hesitated, but stepped off the train, drawn by a mysterious compulsion. As he wandered the deserted platform, he noticed a figure standing in the shadows. It wore a traditional opera mask, its expression frozen in a grotesque grin. The figure moved closer, gliding rather than walking, and Ming felt a chill run down his spine. "Welcome to my realm," the figure whispered, its voice a distorted echo. "Here, we wear our true faces." The mask shifted, revealing a glimpse of decaying flesh beneath. Before Ming could react, the mask lunged at him, melding with his own face. He screamed, but no sound came out. His reflection in the glass revealed his new, monstrous visage. Terrified, he ran back to the train, the mask's mocking laughter ringing in his ears. The other passengers avoided his gaze, their faces hidden in the shadows. Ming's heart pounded as he sat down, trying to peel the mask from his skin, but it clung like a second layer of flesh. The train's lights flickered, and the air grew colder, the temperature dropping with each passing second. Station 2, the Hungry Shadows. The train's next stop brought Ming to a station shrouded in darkness. The only light came from the train itself, casting eerie shapes on the walls. Ming hesitated, but knew he had to continue his journey. As he stepped off the train, he felt an oppressive weight in the air. Shadows moved independently, slithering along the ground and walls. Ming tried to ignore them, but they whispered his name, their voices like nails on a chalkboard. Suddenly, the shadows surged forward, wrapping around his legs and pulling him to the ground. He struggled, but their grip was unyielding. They whispered secrets and fears, drawing out his deepest anxieties. "You cannot escape us," they hissed. "We are the darkness within you." Ming's mind filled with visions of his past mistakes and regrets. The shadow's grip tightened, and he felt his sanity slipping away. Just as he thought he would be consumed, the train's horn blared, and the shadows recoiled. Gasping for breath, he scrambled back on board, leaving the hungry darkness behind. The shadows lingered at the edge of the platform, their whispers haunting him even as the train pulled away. Ming clutched his seat, his heart racing as he realized the darkness within him was far more terrifying than any external threat. Station 3, the Weeping Woman. The train arrived at the third station, where the sound of soft sobbing filled the air. Ming stepped onto the platform, his curiosity piqued despite his fear. The sobbing grew louder, leading him to a woman dressed in a flowing white gown, her hair covering her face. "Are you all right?" Ming asked, his voice trembling. The woman looked up, revealing a face twisted in sorrow and rage. Her eyes were hollow, and tears of blood streamed down her cheeks. "They took my child," she wailed. "Help me find him." Before Ming could respond, the woman grabbed his arm with a grip like iron, pulling him into a vision of the past. He saw her child, lost in a crowd, crying for his mother. The scene shifted to a dark alley where the boy was taken by shadowy figures. "Find him," she screamed, her voice echoing in his mind. The vision ended abruptly, and Ming was back on the platform, the woman nowhere to be seen. Shaken, he returned to the train, vowing to find a way to help her. But as he sat down, he noticed a child's toy on the seat next to him. The toy's eyes seemed to follow him, and a cold shiver ran down his spine. Station 4, the Cursed Puppeteer. The train's next stop was eerily silent. Ming stepped off, finding himself in a station that resembled an abandoned theater. Broken marionettes dangled from the ceiling, their empty eyes following him as he moved. A spotlight flickered on, illuminating a figure on the stage. The puppeteer wore tattered clothes and a sinister smile, his fingers deftly manipulating the strings of a lifelike puppet. "Welcome, dear audience," the puppeteer crooned. "Tonight, you are the star." Before Ming could react, invisible strings wrapped around his limbs, pulling him onto the stage. He tried to resist, but the puppeteer's control was absolute. Ming's body moved against his will, performing a macabre dance, as the audience of marionettes clapped with hollow hands. The puppeteer's eyes gleamed with malicious delight as he tightened the strings, forcing Ming to perform increasingly grotesque contortions. Pain shot through his body, but the strings held him fast. Just as the dance reached its climax, the strings tightened, threatening to tear Ming apart. With a final, desperate effort, he broke free, stumbling off the stage and back onto the train. The puppeteer's laughter echoed in his mind long after the doors closed. Station 5, the Whispering Walls. The fifth station was a labyrinth of twisting tunnels and corridors, the walls covered in strange symbols. Ming stepped off the train, feeling a sense of foreboding. The walls seemed to pulse with a life of their own, whispering secrets in an ancient language. As he navigated the maze, the whispers grew louder, forming coherent sentences. They spoke of forgotten rituals and ancient curses, of souls trapped in eternal torment. Ming felt his sanity slipping as the voices invaded his mind. Desperate to escape, he stumbled upon a hidden door. Pushing it open, he found himself back on the platform, the whispers fading to a dull murmur. Shaking, he boarded the train, grateful to leave the cursed station behind. But the symbols had left their mark on his skin, glowing faintly in the dim light. The whispers continued to echo in his mind, and Ming knew he was now a part of the ancient curse. Station 6, the Phantom Conductor. The train shuddered as it arrived at the sixth station. Ming stepped off, only to find himself face to face with a spectral figure in a conductor's uniform. The Phantom's eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and it held a pocket watch that ticked unnaturally loud. "Tickets, please," the conductor intoned, its voice hollow and cold. Ming fumbled for his ticket, but the conductor shook its head. "No ticket, no passage," it said, pointing to a door marked "Lost Souls." Ming felt a surge of fear and defiance. "I'm not one of them," he protested. The conductor's expression remained unchanged. "Prove it." With a wave of its hand, the door swung open, revealing a swirling vortex of tortured spirits. Ming could hear their anguished cries, feel their despair. Summoning his courage, he stepped forward, determined to find his way back. As he approached the vortex, it lashed out, trying to pull him in. Ming fought against the pull, feeling his strength ebbing away. Just as he was about to be swallowed by the darkness, the conductor intervened, its eyes narrowing. "Very well," it said, closing the door. "You may pass." Breathing a sigh of relief, Ming hurried back to the train, the conductor's gaze following him. The Phantom's watch continued to tick, a reminder that time was running out. Station 7, the Hall of Mirrors. The penultimate station was an ornate hall of mirrors, each surface reflecting distorted images. Ming stepped off the train, his own reflection twisting and warping with each step. The air was thick with a sense of impending doom. As he moved deeper into the hall, the mirrors began to show scenes from his past, memories long buried and regrets unspoken. He saw himself as a child, lost and alone, as a young man, making choices that led to pain and suffering. One mirror stood out, its surface rippling like water. Ming approached it, feeling an inexplicable pull. As he reached out to touch it, the reflection transformed into a dark version of himself, eyes glowing with malevolence. "Embrace your true self," the reflection taunted. "Only then will you find peace." Ming recoiled, refusing to accept the dark figure as his own. With a surge of willpower, he shattered the mirror, the fragments falling like rain. The hall dissolved around him, and he stumbled back onto the train, his mind reeling. The shattered glass cut his hands, and the blood stained the floor. His reflection in the train window was still distorted, the dark figure lingering in the background. Station 8, the final descent. The train's last stop was a descent into darkness. Ming stepped off, finding himself in a cavernous void, the only light coming from the train behind him. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and the ground beneath him felt unstable. As he moved forward, he encountered the spirits of those who had taken this journey before him. Their eyes were hollow, their bodies twisted and broken. They reached out to him, their touch cold and clammy. "Join us," they whispered. "There is no escape." Ming felt his resolve weakening, the despair of the lost souls seeping into his mind. But he forced himself to move forward, determined to find a way out. At the center of the void, he found a figure cloaked in shadows, its presence overwhelming. The figure spoke, its voice a rumble that shook the ground. Why do you seek to escape? It asked. This is your destiny. Ming stood tall, defiance in his eyes. I refuse to accept this fate. The figure laughed, a sound like thunder. Then fight, and see if you can survive. With a wave of its hand, the void erupted in chaos. Ming dodged and fought, using every ounce of strength and willpower to resist the onslaught. Just as he thought he would be overwhelmed, he saw a glimmer of light in the distance. Summoning his last reserves of strength, he pushed toward the light. The shadows clawed at him, but he refused to be dragged down. With a final, desperate leap, he reached the light and found himself back on the train, the doors closing behind him. Epilogue. Ming collapsed onto a seat, exhausted and shaken. The train began to move, carrying him away from the horrors he had faced. He looked around, realizing he was alone. The train's lights flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. As the train sped through the darkness, Ming couldn't shake the feeling that his journey was far from over. The horrors he had faced were just the beginning, and the true test lay ahead. The train's final destination remained unknown, but Ming knew one thing for certain: he was no longer the same person who had boarded it. The shadows had changed him, and he would never be able to forget the nightmares he had endured. The train rolled on, and Ming braced himself for whatever lay ahead, knowing that his last train to hell and back was a journey that would haunt him forever. The end.
Thanks for tuning in to our podcast. If you enjoyed our exploration of ghosts, mythical creatures, and urban legends, please share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling episodes. Until next time, my beloved listeners.